in a span of a couple of decades with 11 recordings, a lot of stage performances. Vocalist Rene Marie has cemented her reputation as not only a singer, but I think more recently even as a composer, arranger, and a teacher as well. She's been nominated for a Grammy Award, and she has 11 recordings to her credit. The most recent one is called A Sound of Red, and she's in the studio with me this morning. Morning,
Hey,
Renee.
good morning.
Hey, welcome to Winnipeg.
I love it.
Really, welcome to Winnipeg. It's perfect, you know?
Well, yesterday was sunny and today's got snow.
Absolutely.
It's part of the vibe.
It is. It's definitely a part of the vibe, and I think it's a good reason for people to be inside this weekend, catching some good music, don't you think?
Yeah, tell them to come.
I will. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here, and thanks, Bev, for bringing her in. Appreciate it. So let me ask you this. I know that, when I read through your bio, it says that, when you were younger, you started singing in R&B bands, and, you sort of got the bug for singing. Then you put it all on hold. You got married, raised some kids. And then apparently your older son, your older son said to you, Mom, man, what are you doing? You got to get back to singing. So what exactly did he say to you to get you back singing again? And were you kind of nervous about it?
I wasn't nervous about it because I'd always continued to sing at home all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what inspired him. He was at a restaurant listening to a jazz trio and a woman singing. Mm-hmm. And he called me from the payphone. This was before.
From the payphone?
Yeah, he actually got up out of his chair, walked outside, and went to the payphone and called me and said, Mom, there's this woman singing here at the restaurant, and she's singing all the songs you sing, and she sounds terrible. You got to come up here and listen to her, Mom. So I dropped what I was doing and went straight to the restaurant, and we sat at the table. I remember this so clearly. We were looking at her, and then we would look at each other and just kind of shake our heads like, And she was not a terrible singer. She was a boring singer, which, she's singing all these great songs from the Great American Songbook, and nothing. Mm-hmm. Just
no soul, no passion.
Nothing there. Yeah. The musicians that were playing with her were watching TV. While they were playing.
Sleeping, in other words.
Abominable.
Uh-huh.
And everybody in the restaurant was talking over top of her. And I was like,
that's sad, man.
and so I was just like, lamenting over that and making all these expressions like, I can't believe it. And my son said, do it, Mom. Mm-hmm. You could do that, Mom. And I said, boy, I'm too old. I'm 42 years old. Nobody gets started singing at 42. Yes, you can, Mom. You can do it. And up until that time, it had never occurred to me, hey, I could get started doing this. I really did think, well, I'm just too old. Who does that? Mm-hmm. It was the first of many times I thought I was too old to do something. But,
and then you discovered that actually maybe it's better that I've got life experience.
That was the thing. Because I was glad I was not a 19 or 20-year-old ingenue coming into this male-dominated industry for the first time. It helps to be in your 40s because when you're in your 40s, you can say, no thanks, I'm out, and not even care because you've done other things in your life. Yeah. And that was always my saving grace, that I have always felt, well, if things don't go the way I want, I can just leave. Mm-hmm. Not a big deal.
Yeah, you can do it your own way.
Do it my way,
as opposed
or not
to somebody,
at all. Could do something else.
Absolutely.
I know how to do other things. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're very young, you believe all the stuff they put into your head, that the business side puts into your head, agents, managers, record labels, and they're very patronizing and put their arm around you and say, you just let me take care of it. Mm-hmm. And you have a tendency to trust that when you're quite young. Mm-hmm. But as you get older, you're like, I've heard that before. So I don't think so. Just ask your questions and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. It works for me.
So when, I know your first few albums, you were doing a lot of standards too. When did you feel comfortable enough to start writing your own music? Or do you still, are you comfortable with it even now?
Yeah. The very first album I did, though, there were 3 original tunes on it because the record label that I was on, Max Jazz.
Max Jazz, yeah.
Rich McDonald, the late Rich McDonald, was, he asked me, do you have any original songs to put on here? And I did have some, but I had never, ever sung them in public. Nothing was written down. And we were in the studio when he asked me, like the last minute, in New York, while we were recording. He says, hey, by the way, and I did have this song called I Like You that I had written, and I knew exactly the melody and the vibe and everything. I knew what I wanted the bass line to do, what the drums were going to do, but I had never figured out how to write it down. So the producer, Bruce Barth, he says, well, if you can get the sing me the song or hum it, I can write it out for you. And
pianist,
so
right? He's a pianist,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I started singing ba do dee 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 doo da da. He says, hold on, let me write that down. He puts the chords in there. He says, okay, what's the next line? It was so easy, I couldn't believe it. But the only problem was I had all the lyrics. I had too many lyrics. But I had left them at home. I was living with my brother, oldest brother this time, Claude. I was living with him because he had convinced me to quit my job and just do this full time, music full time. So I called him, Claude, I've got all these little notes, I had written down on napkins, on the back of receipts, bits of a lyric here, lyric there. And I said, can you go into my room and it's on the bookshelf, you'll see a bunch of pieces of paper. Can you tape it together and print it off or copy it and then fax it to me to New York? And so my brother did that for me. And in 2 days, we were recording that song. It was really amazing because I had to edit out the lyrics. It was too long, too wordy, which is was a very good exercise for me.
Well, songwriting is a craft, right? I mean, it's about taking...
Oh, boy.
It is. It's literally about a craft, yeah.
Yes, and you cannot be too attached to anything in the song. You have to be willing to edit. What is it? I think in the vernacular it's called killing your babies.
Ooh.
I've heard that said in theater and
I like
music.
editing better.
Well, everything
like
is so darling.
Yeah.
Everything you write or compose is just like, oh, I just love this. Yeah, but you know what? It needs to go. It's just not going to work on this song.
And that's
write another song and put it in there.
And that's where producers come in too, right? They're there to kind of help you out a bit.
Yeah, a bit. But maybe that's the downside of doing stuff in your 40s, because you get to be real stubborn. And I don't like people telling me how to do my music. I don't like that.
Well, I'll be careful. I
don't do that well. I don't collaborate well. Oof.
So let's talk about, well, I want to get to your new CD in a second.
Okay.
But tell me a bit about, you told me off air about your family. You got a big family. Tell me a little bit about your family and growing up. What was going on?
Oh, wow.
In a short amount of time.
Our family was filled with, both of my parents were educators. My father taught in the high school in Warrenton, Virginia, and my mother taught math in the elementary school. There were 5 boys, 2 girls. I was child number 5, 5th child my mother had when she was 30. Yes, sir. Right. She used to teach in a one-room schoolhouse. I remember going to the school, and she taught from pre-kindergarten up through the 8th grade in one room, and brought my 2 baby brothers, and me. And when my baby brother needed to be nursed, she would just go to another, like behind this chalkboard or something. The older kid took over the class while my mother nursed my baby brother.
Wow.
Yeah. On my father's deal, he was quite fond of all kinds of music. So there's lots of different types of music played in the house all the time, except for jazz. I discovered jazz when I was 17. But up until then, folk music, classical music, Ravel's Bolero was my dad's absolute favorite song that he played every single day. And he would frequently just burst out into song. He would take lyrics from opera and change the words to help us eat our dinner or brush our teeth.
Keep you entertained while you're doing things you didn't want to do.
It was great. It was great. The flip side of that is that my father and mother were, they protested Jim Crow laws and segregation in Warrenton, Virginia, because Virginia was one of the last states to comply with integration. So my dad, because of his protests, he was blacklisted and lost his job, and then he became an alcoholic. And then life changed drastically. It was violent. Lots of domestic abuse. And as a result of that domestic abuse, my mom had to leave. She took me and my 2 youngest brothers, and we moved back to the city where her parents lived, Roanoke, Virginia. Left my other brothers and my older sister there in Warrenton because they were in junior high and high school, you know. So that was a difficult time. I missed my hometown. All my friends, all my family were there. I just really missed them.
So you were about, what, 10 at the time or so?
I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
But it was that separation from my dad and my brothers and sister that caused something to bubble up in me. And I was at a Halloween party where the homeowners were getting the kids to come up and do little things on their upstairs deck, outside deck. And I was there. My mom forced me to go, and I was like standing in the shadows, you know, watching. It'd been maybe 3 months since we had left Warrenton. Really missing my dad. And so they were calling all the kids up to do something. And I loved to sing, even at that stage. Music really touched my heart. And I got up there on the deck and sang A House Is Not a Home. Do you know that song?
Sounds familiar.
A chair is still a chair, even when there's no one sitting there. But a chair is not a house, and a house is not a home when the two of us are far apart. You don't know that? And one of us has a broken heart.
Oh, beautiful tune.
I just belted that song out into the night, you know, thinking about my dad. And I ran home right afterwards because I had never done that before. And I was like,
freaked out.
What do I do with this feeling that I have?
Yeah.
And I sat on the porch of the steps at home. I didn't go inside. And I just breathing hard, you know. And I was like, I really enjoyed that. I want to do that again. That was great. I love that feeling. Whatever it was, I want to have that feeling again. And that was when I realized I really want to sing.
And, you know, you've never lost that either, you know, and I haven't, you know, again, I've never seen you perform live before, so I'm really excited to see that tomorrow. But when I've seen some clips of you live online, you haven't lost that feeling, you know, when you're singing songs, whether it's a standard or whether it's in particular one of your own songs that's so close to your heart. I can see it and I can feel it, even through the whatever screen I'm watching it on, I can feel it. That to me is a sign of somebody who is not only connected to their music, but is connected to their soul, connected to their heart, because that's where it all comes from, you know? And I feel that from you. I really do. And that,
thank you.
I wanted to just, you know, we don't have a ton of time left. I wish we could chat for a couple hours, but I'm just going to
I can come back tomorrow.
You can come back tomorrow. So let's, first of all, I want to just remind people, I'm talking to Rene Marie. She's in town as part of the Izzy Asper Jazz Concert Series. I don't know, Bev, are there tickets left for tonight? Just a couple, maybe? Maybe, but mostly tomorrow afternoon. And
tickets,
yes,
in the afternoon at 2 and the evening at 7:30.
Okay,
and
so
I was just telling Bev how much I'm so glad we're doing a matinee because we don't usually get to do that.
That's what I'm coming to. I'm going to do the matinee tomorrow.
Awesome, because a whole new audience is open to us that ordinarily wouldn't come at night. So
absolutely.
I'm really thrilled by that.
Yeah, well, one of my grandkids is coming.
Oh, wow.
He's 2 months old.
Aww.
So listen, step
You're not old enough to have a grand. What?
I know. Well, we can talk about that after.
23.
We've all had lives, right? We've all lived lives. 477-7534 is how you can get tickets. You can also go to radiojcc.com. really, you want to get your tickets fast because I think that it's probably going to sell out tomorrow and Sunday night as well. But maybe still, if you have to, call and ask about tickets for tonight. So let's talk about tonight and talk about your new album called The Sound of Red. It's your first album where it's all originals. All originals.
All originals.
11 original songs.
That's right.
That's a big project. How was it putting it all together?
Well, all of them were not brand new songs. Let me just first of all confess that.
Yep.
Over half of those songs I had written, were at least a year old. And several of them, 15 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The thing is, you're writing songs, and the whole time you're writing songs, but you can't put everything on the CD, and some get hopefully put on the shelf for the next time. So, but I found that, these songs, many of them are personal, and they ran the gamut of human emotions. And, with a record label, they always want to know, how are we going to sell this? The manager and the booking agent, how are we going to sell this? And when all I'm doing is just writing the songs. So I was like, what is the sound of all of our human emotions? What put together, if you could mix them all up in a pot, what would it sound like? And just came up with Sound of Red, because to me, red is,
it's just red.
Red is the baddest color on the spectrum.
My favorite color is yellow, by the way.
Is it?
It is.
I'm not surprised, because you have this really happy. That's a great. I can see that.
Hey,
Yeah.
and by the way, before we wrap up, happy birthday! Your birthday's coming up
I know.
in a few days. So is mine, by the way. We're both Scorpios.
When's your birthday?
November 10th.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. So we'll celebrate this weekend.
Yeah,
can celebrate
we're
this
celebrate. Well, thank you.
So anyway, we're just about out of time. I want to be able to get this one last tune in. Why don't you can introduce the tune. It's called Colorado River Song, because I wanted to end on kind of a fun note. This is a good feeling. I was going to play Blessings, but I want to leave people kind of dancing around.
I love singing Colorado River Song.
So quickly, you got about 30 seconds to tell me about.
Okay, I just moved to Colorado. I was volunteering to answer phones for a fund drive at the public radio station KUVO. I sat down in front of a table in front of this guy, and he goes, "Does anybody want to go on a river trip with me?" I had never done anything like that. It was 3 days, a group of 25 people going, and I said yes. I was so excited on the day going to the river that I started singing this song just out of my mouth. Oh, we are paddling.
Mm-hmm.
I sang it throughout the weekend, and somebody suggested that we record it, and several years later, we did.
And here it is. Thank you very much for coming in. I'll see you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Thanks again, Bev, for bringing her in. It's been my pleasure. Rene Marie in the studio again. You can catch her live tonight. It's a perfect weekend to be inside. Tomorrow afternoon and Sunday, go to radiojcc.com or 477-7534. Here it is, Colorado River Song.